Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Stevie T and today I'm going to be talking about evidence for Jesus rising again. So it's history that 2,000 years ago, some man named Jesus was crucified by the Romans for claiming to be the Son of God. Now whether you believe he was the Son of God or not doesn't make a difference for this video. I'm just going to be weighing up some evidence as to suggest that Jesus rose again. Okay, so before Jesus died, he said that 3 days after his death, he was going to rise again. So this meant the Jews thought they'd take some precautions to make sure that he didn't rise again. So what they did was they put Jesus' body in a tomb, rolled a huge stone in front of it, and then had some armed Romans stand guard over the tomb. This meant that no one could break into the tomb, steal the body and see that Jesus was risen again. It also meant that if Jesus did rise again, he was in the tomb, there was no way for him to get out. So with this in mind, what happened to Jesus' body? So 3 days later, anarchy kicked off because the disciples were saying that Jesus had risen again. So let's say that the Jews took the body. Let's say that they took the body to make sure the disciples couldn't claim that he'd risen again. So 3 days later, when the body was missing and the disciples started to say that he'd risen again, the Jews could just produce the body and say, look, everyone, pipe down, we've got the body right here. He isn't alive because here's your evidence, he's here. But this didn't happen. The disciples claimed that Jesus had risen again, and the Jews didn't have anything to say. They were like, oh, well, where is the body? Let's go try and find the body to disprove these disciples. So let's say that the Romans took the body. Let's say that the Romans weren't happy with the placing of Jesus being in that tomb. They'd also caught wind that this guy said he was going to rise again, so they moved the body so that they could produce the body 3 days later saying that he hadn't risen again, that he was still dead. So the Romans, they've moved this body. 3 days later, anarchy kicks off. The disciples are saying that Jesus has risen again. The whole city's in uproar going, oh, maybe he has risen again because where's his body? The Romans could then go, look, here's his body, he hasn't risen again, he's right here. Everyone, shut up, go home, carry on with your merry little lives. But that's not what happened. Like the Jews, they didn't have the body. To them the body was missing and the Roman guards had just legged it and they were in fear for their lives. So another explanation is that the disciples took the body, that they managed, that these 11 mourning people, because these people, these 12 men, fishermen and tax collectors at that, who had just lost their best friend, so they're pretty much going to be in tears because they deserted him when he needed them the most. Some of them even denied him. So these guys were in tears and they didn't know what to do, so they had locked themselves in buildings. Like these guys were pretty scared of the Jews because they followed Jesus and they thought the Jews wanted to kill them. So these guys, let's just say that they managed to big themselves up and attacked the Romans with fishing rods and pike hooks, and let's say that they took out the Romans, they managed to somehow roll the stone away and they took Jesus' body. There's a couple of issues with this, and that is, one, you'd have thought that these Romans that were armed would have just killed some of the disciples, maybe not all of them, you'd have thought they'd have killed some of them, and that some bodies would have been produced because Romans were known for being incredible fighters, and they'd have just wiped the floor of these disciples. No matter how many of them there were, they'd have easily have just taken them out. But none of the disciples were killed, and nor were the Romans. And there was no way that these disciples managed to roll the stone away either. But let's just say they did all of that. They managed to kill the Romans without being killed themselves. They also managed to roll the stone away, and they took Jesus' body. Why, when they were then put to the sword, so they had Romans and the Jews threatening to kill them, why would they then die for a lie? Why would they go, yes, Jesus has risen again, when he hadn't, and then why would they die saying that Jesus has risen again when he hadn't? Because they had no idea of the scale or proportion that Christianity would grow. They had not a clue that Christianity would be as big as it is today and that it would last 2,000 years. You see, at this point, they didn't even believe that Jesus was the Son of God anymore. They thought that he was just a great man that they had let down. So why would they then take his body and claim that he had risen again? They wouldn't have done it. They just wouldn't have done it. And then they wouldn't have lied about it and died for that lie. Because I know I certainly would not die for a lie like that, having no idea what might happen with this lie, like having no idea that it was going to be so big. So we can conclude that the disciples didn't take it, the Jews didn't take it, and the Romans didn't take it. So what did happen to the body? Let's say that Jesus did rise again, because that is the only logical conclusion that I can come to. Because looking at all the other ideas and all the other theories and everything, there's no way that his body could have just disappeared without someone having a clue about it. You see, after Jesus rose again, he appeared to 500 people at the exact same time. All 500 people said that they saw Jesus at the exact same time, and they all said the exact same thing. They said exactly what he said, and all of their stories were the same. There was no one that slightly had a different story, because you'd think if people were lying to that scale, someone would have made a mistake and then maybe changed their story accidentally, and it had been found out that it was a hoax. Now you might be thinking that, oh, these 500 people could have been hallucinating, but nowhere in recorded history, like before then or after then leading up to now, has there been a mass hallucination where 500 people have seen the same thing and had their stories exactly identical. That is scientifically impossible for 500 people to have this hallucination. And what would have caused the hallucination? Because they didn't have drugs like LSD or whatever that would have caused hallucinations. They didn't have them back then. So how would they have hallucinated? There's just no explanation for it. So weighing all of this up, all of this evidence up, if this was in a court case, it would be found that Jesus rose again. All of this evidence is strong enough for a court to rule that Jesus rose again, because there's no other explanation for it. If you guys have an explanation that I haven't explored during this, have any other ideas or anything like that, chuck them in the comment section below. I'd love to look into them. So also, if you're new to this channel, then please go check out some of my other videos. If you like what you see, subscribe. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment. Any other video suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. So yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful, amazing week. I've been Stevie T. Don't forget to be real, be true, God bless, and I shall see you on a bizzle.